we're going to leave some time towards the end for Q&A, and I'm sure you'll probably have a lot of questions for Brendan as well. So we'll go through the presentation first of all, and then I'll pass you over to Brendan towards the end. So again, I suppose, as I mentioned already, I'm just going to go over some of the benefits of county squads, how they can be like a stepping stone that the counties can use to target the provincial squads, and probably more specifically the performance side of the provincial squads for those kind of under 16 to under 20 athletes. It can be used as well as a way of developing your own coaches, which is really important because, you know, the coaches are the people on the ground who are keeping the clubs going and bringing our athletes through from, you know, under 12s, under 11s, all the way up to the senior ranks. And I suppose collaboration between clubs as well. So it's a great way to get clubs collaborating, working together, and creating more of a network between the clubs and the coaches, which is really, really important. And we'll come on to that in a little bit. And we'll give you some examples of some structures. So starting out probably small is the best way to start if you haven't done county squads before, and then looking towards building that up over a number of seasons or a number of years. So I suppose as Athletics Ireland, our mission really is to create more opportunities for athletes of all levels to engage in athletics and to feel supported on every step of their development. So whether they're doing it for just engagement in athletics, whether it's because their friends are doing it, or whether, you know, they want to target their county championships or the provincial or even their nationals. So again, it's no matter what step of your journey you're on or what your targets are, that we have resources and we have opportunities for those athletes to come in and enjoy athletics and feel supported. And also to help the clubs and the counties to develop and deliver successful structures and squad programs. So I guess, you know, the reason that a lot of you are here tonight is probably, you know, you've maybe started looking at developing county squads, or maybe you already have county squads and you want to develop them further. So I suppose the question is, like, why should you consider developing them, and why should you consider running them within your own counties? So there's a whole host, I suppose, of different benefits. I've kind of alluded to some of them already. So of course, first and foremost, it's for athlete development. So I suppose an opportunity for athletes to come together, meet like-minded individuals, and also maybe meet new coaches and have that kind of collaboration of coming together, learning from each other and building and progressing forwards. Then you have your coach development. So, you know, a lot of us, we might be just working within our clubs at the moment. And while that's brilliant, it's a great way then when the clubs come together. And if you're creating, say, an endurance coach network within the county. So say, for example, it was Kerry Athletics could be the endurance Kerry coach network. And then using that as, I suppose, a modality to build yourselves as coaches within your specific event. You can bounce ideas off each other, and that's, I suppose, a way of improving, I suppose, your experience and getting more knowledge within your own event. Then, of course, club collaboration. So if you have collaboration between clubs and between coaches, you know, you can do a lot more than just being within your own club. And I suppose the development of facilities as well. So then when, I suppose, we look at the athlete themselves and what kind of pathway or trajectory the county squads might provide to them. So say, for example, if you didn't have a county squad, it might be very hard for athletes to maybe progress to their provincial squads, to the performance side, we'll say, because you have to be top 4 in your provincial championships or top 8 at nationals. So if we have a really good county squad structure, it's providing something else outside of their own club activity. So again, it's that opportunity to meet new people, push themselves a little bit further, and maybe through that collaboration and networking through the clubs, you might develop new resources and new knowledge for the athletes, and that will help them to progress in their own development, maybe bringing them into county championships, targeting then your provincial squads. And I suppose the ultimate aim for us is that we've got long-term engagement in athletics, so that they're kind of transitioning through from junior to under 23 to senior. So that's kind of our hope, that this kind of structure can be followed through all the way up to the senior rankings. And then when you're looking at you as coaches, so I'm guessing a lot of people on the call tonight are coaches. So of course, a lot of us will start out within our clubs, coaching within our clubs. Maybe you've come in as a volunteer or as a parent. You've done your assistant coaching course, maybe your athletics leader, and progress on to maybe your level 1. So again, what we would view the county squads is another opportunity for you to use it almost as a form of CPD. It's a great opportunity to collaborate with other coaches who might have more experience and then creating that network. And I think that would be something that I would say if you are considering county squads, that you would create those networks between the coaches and the clubs. I think it's a great way to, even outside of the county squad program, you might just be putting in extra resources throughout the season, throughout the year, some new kind of research is coming up, and it's a great way to just keep building your knowledge and your experience going forwards. So again, we would hope that, if you have a couple of years then coaching at your county squad, you might be able to come into the provincial squad setup and be a coach there. So making more of an impact for you as a coach, and then helping you whether, you want to stay at the provincial level or you want to progress further to coaching maybe senior athletes, that we can help you guys to gain that knowledge, that experience, and that education to progress yourselves forward in your coaching careers. And then I suppose the kind of third strand, so you have your athlete development, your coach development, and of course the club. So the club is really, really important. I suppose the club is, where we go to train, where we go to progress as both athletes and coaches, and it's a huge part of our community. So I suppose as part of the club, we have our athletes, we have our coaches, and the club itself. So with the athletes, then again, I've mentioned already progression and development, peer networking, which is really important for their social skills and educational resources. The county squads then can provide network groups, coach collaboration, and coach education and increased experience for your coaches. And then with the clubs, I suppose you want to try and look at increasing maybe your membership, maybe your club activity or your coaching activity. So if you're trying to recruit new volunteers, this could be a great way of bringing in new volunteers into your clubs. Networking opportunities between the clubs as well. We have other, I suppose, aspects like spree grains and things like that, and competition can come into this as well. But again, you could use a county squad as a really good opportunity to collaborate with other clubs, creating those strong relationships between the clubs, and I suppose again increasing your club activity within the county. So again, it all comes back to improving athletics as a whole within the county and bringing in that kind of group mentality that we can all come together to push this forward even more. So I suppose that's kind of an overview of the benefits of county squads, and what I'll come on to next is how you might start with creating a county squad. So there's, I suppose, a whole host of different ways that you can do it. You can start out small, and I think that's probably one of the one things to focus in on from tonight is starting out small with a view to growing larger. If you start out on a smaller scale, then get those kind of foundations right and then build from the foundation. So we need to have a really strong, solid foundation before we can start to build. So I suppose the first protocol might be, your county board meeting. You might bring it up at the next county board meeting. And I suppose making sure that you have either the specific people there at the county squad, or sorry, at the county board meeting, or you might want to actually set up a meeting for clubs to attend, so club members to attend to talk about the squads. So what we kind of would recommend as step one would be appointing a squad manager. So this could be your key point of contact for all things county squads. Then you might have event-specific leads. So you'll have maybe one person over endurance, one person over throws, one person over jumps. And then that person will have a team of coaches underneath them that they'll have who will be involved in whether it's the actual running of the county squad, or it might be developing the program or recruiting athletes. So again, you have kind of that tier of squad manager, event-specific lead, and then your team underneath them. Then you want to set out your objectives and your standards. So what do you guys want to achieve out of your county squad? Is it, you want it to be accessible to all? Do you want to put more criteria on it for more performance-based athletes? Or is it just a case of getting more athletes engaged in athletics and enjoying it? So again, being really clear and concise with those objectives and those standards is really important, because that will outline, I suppose, how your squads will look and who they will cater for. Again, looking at your objectives, do you need to create some resources for your athletes and for your coaches? And then a really good idea would be creating kind of a plan for coaches. So a progression from day one of your squad all the way to the last day of the season. What does coaching look like? What are you targeting? And I suppose that will depend as well on the time of the season. Then coming on to your facility selection. So I suppose the key thing here is having kind of a centralized location that will give access to all clubs. So, depending on, if you take Cork, for example, it's quite a broad geographical range. And so again, making sure facility selection is in an appropriate area. And you could have maybe 2 or 3 different facilities that you might rotate between. Again, making sure the facilities can cater for all events. So that's one thing that I've come up against is there's very few facilities around that actually caters for all events. There might be pole vault missing, there might be a hammer cage missing. So again, we don't want to, I suppose, reduce the impact that our squads can have. So making sure it can cater for all facilities. And if it can't, is there something else that we could do to, I suppose, come around that? Making sure that we have sufficient equipment. Indoor facilities is something to consider as well, because usually these squad programs would be maybe around the winter time. So again, really cold weather, especially for your throws and your jumps athletes, they prefer to be indoors. So is there something that we can provide as well as a county to host indoor facilities? An area for the coaches' lunch and their break, which is really important. So making sure that we're looking after our coaches, and I suppose making sure just that our facilities meet the required standards for training. So some other considerations then that you might look at would be your parent and your club involvement. So again, county squads and squads in general, like a lot of work goes into those days. And I suppose the big thing that you want is that you want enough people on the ground that you as a coach, if you're coaching, that you're not stressed and worried about something else, check-in or organizing the lunch for the coaches. So again, making sure that the parents are involved and also inviting, new coaches or new volunteers down to observe these sessions can be a brilliant way of really getting people involved and getting them involved in coaching as well and helping out further down the line. Your PRO activities is going to be super important. So making sure that all communications get out to all clubs within the counties. So what does that look like? Is it over email? Is it over, the county, maybe Instagram, socials? That will, I suppose, depend on, what kind of setup you have at the moment. And is it something that you might need to consider looking at further? Registration fees and funding. So some counties have this included, some counties don't. Again, it's going to be, I suppose, very dependent on what the county sees fit. And that might come up at a county board meeting. And I know Brendan can kind of talk a little bit more on that in a couple of minutes as well. So I suppose other smaller scale models that you could include, and I suppose that's, something that I alluded to at the start, was starting out small. So when we think of a squad, we think of every event group. And while that's, I suppose, the ultimate aim for us, if you're starting out and you haven't done these before, it might be best, say cross-country season is coming up now, starting up with just an endurance squad. So really small scale, targeting just one event and doing it for cross-country season. Seeing how that goes, learning from it, reviewing it, and then hopefully then come maybe before the indoor season, we could set up either a county squad with a couple of events included and then work from there. So I suppose the main thing is don't feel like you need to start out with everything included. Maybe start small and work your way up from there. And it can progress quite quickly once you have kind of 1 or 2 squads underneath your belt and you know exactly how it rolls and what to include and what not to include. And then you can, I suppose, develop that going forwards. So again, just reviewing after each session. It could be an idea to bring in the coaches for a quick coach meeting at the end of each session to review and see what went right. And then again, plan for the next event, plan going forwards, what you can do better next time and what you might need to cater for if you're developing the squads onto a bigger scale. So I'm going to come on to Kerry Athletics now as a case study. I'm going to kind of pass you over to Brendan. I suppose just before I pass you over to Brendan, to give you kind of an overview of Kerry Athletics. hopefully I've gotten all these points right. Brendan can correct me if I'm wrong. But they began in 2013, developed by Brendan and Kerry Athletics, and their objective really was to promote athletics in Kerry while providing the necessary coaching expertise for young athletes of all abilities to reach their full potential. So they opened up their development squad to all secondary school athletes who are registered in any one of Kerry's athletics club. And I suppose it was just a great opportunity for them to train together, people from other clubs to come together and develop the athlete both socially and technically in their event as well. And no standard was required. So it was hosted in 2 events and still is today. So between An Ríocht athletics track and Tralee Harriers athletics track. So it just kind of rotates between the two. They have a coaching roster for the squads and I have appointments, a key lead over each event area that develops kind of a coaching plan, I suppose, for the season. They do have a levy in place for each athlete, €6, I'm pretty sure. I'll hand you over to Brendan in a moment. And I suppose their key priority then is athlete engagement, development, and having a really fun and engaging environment that the athlete wants to come back to. And I suppose that the coaches want to come back to too, because, you know, even though these squads are quite focused around the athlete, it's really important that our coaches are really gaining a lot of value from these days as well, and that they can see it as something really beneficial to them that they enjoy. So I'm going to just stop sharing for 2 moments. I'll pass you over to Brendan. If you're ready to have a bit of a chat, Brendan, just to give an overview on what you've done. You're just still on mute there at the moment.
Okay, good evening, everybody. You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Pat. Kerry Athletics, back in 2011, we felt that there was athletes isolated in clubs on their own, doing disciplines that wasn't very prevalent within the county, and we decided to set up what is now county squads. And when we set them up, we were wondering how we want to fund this, or what's the support network going to be following on from it. So we had a coaches meeting inviting all the interested club coaches to come along to a meeting and offer their support towards the squads. And thankfully, we were able to achieve that, which allowed us then to progress to setting up a variation of different activities. It started off initially with sprints, middle distance, jumps, and independently the different throws events. But over the years, we're very fortunate that we have quite a number of level 2 and level 3 coaches in the county. So we're able to extend a squad session to most of the events on the day. And we usually, the events are either in An Ríocht or on now, Tralee Harriers have a 400-meter circuit, so we can hold track training there in Tralee Harriers. But when we were setting up the squads, a lot of the athletes didn't have access to a track. An Ríocht was the only competition track, and it was the only track in Kerry at the time. Since then, Tralee have a training facility, as Killarney Valley have a small training facility. But some athletes didn't see a track until they went to the county championships. And if they were starting back in September after school, the first time they saw a track was either if it was indoors and then was county championships following on. So this was giving us an opportunity to bring young athletes to the track on a regular basis. And we started off funding it by introducing a €6 levy on every registered member within the county. Kerry is a small county athletics-wise. We only have we have 12 clubs now, but only one of those is new since last year. So we only had 11 clubs. And the geography of the county being so vast, it meant athletes were training on their own and having very little involvement, and there was a huge fall off. So when the squad started, we had athletes coming from, like, if I was to drive to Carsavine, where Grace is from, it's actually 62 miles one way. So the geography of the county didn't lend itself to everybody collectively training together unless they put in a serious effort coming from parents, coaches, and athletes themselves. We set up the squads, and from day one, it has been a massive success because the athletes buy into it. Now, over the years, we would have had to persuade some coaches in clubs to say, well, your athlete will benefit from the squads if it's only socially, where some coaches have this mindset, they're my athlete and I dictate what they'll do in a training session. Each discipline has a lead coach, and if club coaches want to liaise with the lead coach, that's their priority, and find out what the program is so they can tailor their club training then for midweek and squads are on a Sunday morning. Now, I'll just give you an example there. Like if I'm training, which I am, the middle distance, and I use the squads for speed work for middle distance athletes, who most of them, the max that would be running would be 5K and on the track, and then maybe 1 or 2 under 20s would be doing seven. Is it, I don't know what the under 20 new cross country distance is. It's not very big anyway, but they can do their mileage with their club coaches during the week, because everybody wouldn't be training with the same facilities. My own club, Listoohill, we have to rent every facility that we train in. We don't have a training base, so we have to rent a school to train on a field. We have to rent an indoor hall to train young little athletics during the winter months. So the identity of athletes in rural areas was the paramount of trying to get those into the squads, where they were meeting maybe only a half a dozen other age grouped athletes in their discipline, but it kept them together and kept them going through secondary school. To now we're beginning to see more Kerry athletes involved in third level competitions compared to 5, 6, 7 years ago, because they have been working together up through secondary school as the one unit, really. Like, I'm sure I'll give you classic examples. Sarah Leahy, the sprinter, when Sarah was on her own under 12, under 13, under 14, she was the only sprinter in Killarney Valley of her age. And there was a cohort of the same age in 2 other clubs who were winning national relays. So bringing all of those girls together kept a lot of them in the sport still. I know a lot of them maybe not, they may have slipped from national standard, but I know they're still competing and very active in the sport. The clubs bought into the funding of €6 per registered member. So I think Kerry usually borders around 1,500 members a year, so that generates 9,000 for us. It's not specifically for squads, it's for the running and assisting of the county board, but the county board pays each coach a €50 time and travel for the county squads, because if somebody's to come from Kenmare to Castleisland or into Tralee, you know, it's quite a long trip, and you can't expect coaches to volunteer without getting some monetary reward for it. We charge the athletes €50. This is what it has been, €50, and we try to get between 20 and 25 sessions annually for that. We're established, so we kind of, once we set it up, we run on a weekly basis, taking into consideration county cross countries, but we'll be starting Munster cross country and so on. But we can run with other disciplines on the day. Now, we have to rent every facility from a squad perspective. So if we're over in Castleisland in Unreal for 2 hours, it's going to cost us 120 quid or more. So a track session a squad session with 6 coaches could cost €420 on the day. So the county board would be committed to investing at least 10,000 into the training development through the squads. And that is very, very important, because the athletes themselves, more often than not, are involved in other activities, and parents have enough to hand out, you know, so we do keep it at the €50, which works out, you know, we have over 25 sessions, it's less than €2 a session. The benefits, and Grace highlighted them there, but for us, the benefits we found was a gender mix. You might have some shy young fellas in a club, and after 2 or 3 squad sessions, they're interacting with their own sex and with the opposite sex. And it gives a good opportunity for the younger athletes to see that they're no different in any other club. Although they may not be winning medals and the other athletes are winning medals, but they're no different personality-wise. And that's why we keep it at secondary school level, because the younger kids in primary school, some of them, a lot of rural schools around, they might be only in a 40 or 50 pupil school, and it's not until they go into secondary school that they're in a yard with bigger and older pupils. So it's not as daunting for them to come in to squads then. Now, we did make exceptions in the past, where we might have a national standard under 13 athlete who's in 6th class, and we would allow them into the school, into the squads, you know, because again, although it's stressed, it isn't standard based, but very quickly you'll be separating your club and county standard based athletes from your Munster and national standard based athletes, because you're trying to bring the cohort of ability together so that they can maximize and work off each other. You know, if we're going to do a couple of 600s in middle distance running, well, you know, the first year might be well able to do 1 or 2 of them, but they know you're only going to be doing 4, where the older guys might be doing 7 or 8. And it's identifying that. For anybody who's considering setting up county squads, the first thing I would suggest is that all the coaches and the respective coaches in the clubs come on stream together. Because the last thing you want is to have a squad going and a coach ringing up and saying, "What's the schedule for today? Oh no, that doesn't suit me, that doesn't suit what we're doing." If a squad session is going ahead, the priority lies with the lead coach for that discipline. And that discipline then, if club coaches have an issue with it, they have to discuss it. But it's important that the athlete isn't affected by it, that, you know, you don't want a coach saying, "Well, if you're going into squads, you're not training in my group," or something like that. You know, it's all about the athlete focus. And coaches, you know, keeping in mind, the majority of the athletes are or secondary school to high-end secondary school before they go into 3rd level, and we would still have some 3rd level athletes training with us within the squads. But the principal element of it is that the athletes come together and train under one coach. And it's a huge commitment from the parents, from the athletes, and from the coaches to say that we have squad sessions every Sunday for the next 6 weeks. Because then the coaches can't say, "Oh, I can't make it, I get somebody else in to do it." And the whole thing is knocked out of kilter. The benefits of going to a track where clubs may not have the facilities, and in some of the diagrams that Grace had there, we'll be able to demonstrate the drills that are required for the specific events. There'll be access to hurdles and doing hurdle drills, which some of the clubs may not have the time, because sometimes club training may be from 7 to 8, and that's it. You might have to be out of the venue that you're training in at 8 o'clock. There could be somebody else coming in to play basketball if you're indoors or something. So the benefit of going to a fully equipped track is access to be able to utilize the facilities there for drills. And some kids may not have the coach expertise in their clubs to know what an A skip is, or C skip, or to know the difference between a jog and a stride. And all of that is broken down and explained to them in the squad sessions. Fortunately, in Kerry, the last 2 years, 3 of our coaches were our PE teachers. So they're very used to working with secondary school students, and it was a huge help to us to have that caliber on board, both all level 2 coaches as well, you know. The commitment to training is very, very important. It's important that you keep a log and of the names that are there. And it's also important to use the opportunity to reinforce with the young athletes the importance of keeping a training log. When you have a collective group, and normally we would have probably anything between 35 would be an average number, 45 would be a good number for us at a session. It's an opportunity to bring outside expertise in sports psychologist coming up to competitions, dietitian, again, being conscious and aware that it's children we're dealing with at the end of the day. You're not going to go around and tell somebody, oh, you can only eat 2 eggs a week or something like that, you know. But the benefits, what we're trying to outline is the benefits of what is important to progressing within the sport, or within any sport. But definitely in the past, we've had huge success with bringing in a sports psychologist to talk to the groups of athletes before we come to competition time, you know. There's 1 or 2 things I would recommend for county boards, if they don't have the equipment themselves, is to invest definitely in free lap timing, you know, where you can measure flight 30s and accelerations and so on out of it. And, you know, that can be the property of the county board for the benefits of the squads. Clubs will have their own, they may not want to lend it out, but I would recommend county boards to invest in that type of equipment as well. The geographical area of each county will determine what you can put on, you know. So it mightn't be any harm if we can't go with a county squad. Is let's the 5 nearest clubs get together and see what we can do, or where can we work together. And you know, coach collaboration is very, very important, you know, because one club may be totally focused on sprints, another club may be totally focused on throws and has the expertise in throwing, and somebody else actually say, oh, we've somebody interested in a pole vault, but we don't have any knowledge of what pole vaulting is about. So the clubs could maybe get together and try and coordinate something from there. It doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, this is a county based at all. It can be regional based within the county, and it can identify pockets that need to be improved on, you know, because we ourselves, we've no facility for anyone who wants to throw a discus or throw a javelin. If somebody wants to throw a javelin, they're going to have to come in 3/4 of an hour early into a field that we're renting and hope that there isn't a gang of lads playing football there beforehand, you know. So there's the benefits of when we go to the track with the squads coaches. The javelin coach then can focus on these athletes, and it's important that the consistency, not say, well, we'll have one this week and we won't have one for 3 weeks, we won't have one then for another 2 weeks afterwards. The consistency is every week, and you can build a block of time and say, we want to have squads now after the cross country athletes, and once the counties are over, they'll be doing the provincials, and some will be going on to nationals. There's no reason why the throws and sprint group, and the jumps cannot have 6 consecutive weeks of training each Sunday morning. And we find 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock is the best. Everybody seems to be in favor of that particular time because it allows them to have the afternoon then. When we start at 10 o'clock, there's kids on the road at 8:30 coming from parts of the county, coming from West Kerry and coming from the Iveragh Peninsula to get to Castleisland for 10 o'clock, you know. So that's the commitment. And in fairness to some of the clubs, there's a new club now in Dingle, and they're enthusiastic to get involved as well. But it's a big commitment from parents, a big commitment from coaches, and the athletes will buy into it when they see that coaches are prepared to put in the time and give time to them, you know. If anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer them. But from my side of things involved, I would highly recommend them. If it's not going to establish, we say, a county base, I definitely recommend inter-club, a couple of clubs, not just two or three clubs. Try and get 5 or 6 clubs training together so that you're going to have a mix. Because the athletes would say, oh, sure, I don't want to go over there, under 14s, so-and-so over there is winning all the races. Bring them in and have numbers, and you can balance it out then, because it's important. And then some counties, the clubs are small. There's only small, I don't know, I'm originally from Carlow. There's not too many athletic clubs in Carlow, but they have 2 400-meter tracks there now, which they didn't have 40 years ago. But it's important that the clubs get together and the coaches can observe, club coaches can observe, see what's going on, because, you know, level 2 and level 3 coaches carry a fair amount of experience, you know. Any questions? There has to be anything.
Well, just on my behalf, Brendan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your own experience. But there was even bits there that, you know, I wouldn't even thought of myself, so that was brilliant. I'm sure we have some questions, and I know there's a few RDOs in the room as well who have their own experiences.
Are people scared of the funding element of it? Like, it would probably have to go to an AGM. And again, the funding is not ring-fenced specifically for squads. The funding and when we propose it at the county board, it's a levy to the county board for the county board's expense. And if the county board wish to spend it on squad sessions, so be it. Okay. But this year, with the league back on and the county best, we always used to put a composite team into the National League. And it was a golden opportunity to be able to bring athletes to guest in it. Unfortunately, that went with the county set up this year. But putting the 2 teams into the county league costs the county board 5,000, plus and 5,000, because we try and bring the older under 17 age group up and go on a bus. Some of them will be competing early. They're hanging around unless they're in a relay or whatever, and go for a meal afterwards on the way home. And then, because of the nature of the competition, some people can't stay all day. So this is the first time we actually paid €50 mileage to get athletes. Otherwise, we would not have been able to fulfill the teams. You know, so the need to fulfill the teams was, we had to come up with the funding for it. And, you know, everybody down here will always compare what an under 16 young fella or girl will get if they're playing with Kerry GAA. And that's what you're competing against. We can't match it. We don't have sponsorship. We're not going to get it on gate receipts or church gate collection. So the €6 levy contributes towards the county board. There's a question there from Melissa to get that I find it hard to get coaches to buy in and share their knowledge. No, not initially, no. Laterally, in later years, as some other coaches became more qualified, they kind of wanted to hold possession of their athletes. Some clubs don't, they stick to their own. They may have, if somebody said, we have enough numbers to work away on our own, that's fine. But don't deprive one of the athletes or their parents wants them to go into the squads. Like, this is not something that it is, I'm selected to go into Kerry athletic squads. It's not like that. Maybe even the title of it, Kerry squads, it might be just Kerry training program or something might be better, because you don't want, it's open to all club members that are in secondary school and older. Like, we've had a few masters come in and especially in the field events, come in and do a couple of sessions with the coaches there. So it's open to all club members, but it's not elitist, and it certainly is there to promote more of a social interaction and keep people in sport, rather than kind of tailor and say, well, okay, now you're in here, you're going to be pushed really hard to achieve getting into a Munster final or something like that. That's not the agenda associated with it. It's more I find the social interaction and the social mix. In general, most young athletes are quite disciplined, they're quite reserved. There's no cynicism attached with them. You're not going to see, if you get the odd clown, it'll be a rare one, So it's important that they enjoy the gender mix and enjoy the prospects of getting a bit of fun out of it. We're all around long enough to know that what it went on in Paris was exceptional, but it's very rare, and the athletes can't you don't want somebody to give them a false delusion and think, oh no, you train hard, you're going to end up in the Olympics in 8 years' time. It certainly isn't the case at all. But it's about keeping them in the sport and telling them, when you go into third level, the first day of society days, sign up for the athletics, and you'll knock a bit of fun out of it, and keep going forward from there. Any questions? Anybody else? Do you think, within your respect, I'm looking at the names there, and I'm looking and I see Bro Rangers are there, and like would Kilkenny be on for it? I wonder. I don't know what Kilkenny City Harriers are dead kind of dominating down there, but it's important to, that clubs utilize the expertise that are in other clubs if they don't have it. It's not, how should I say it? There's no poaching going on. You don't want somebody to say, oh Jesus, if we had that girl in our club, we'd have a great relay. We're short one for a relay, and she's friendly with 2 or 3 off the relay team. None of that is accepted. You don't. An athlete is attached to their club, and they're in training collectively together. And you don't want to see somebody saying, oh, well, I want to go, for argument's sake, I want to go from Farnfore in Listowel over to Listowel so I can join a relay team. That wouldn't be accepted because of the squads at all, And you're not trying to deplete any club to the benefit of another club at all. It's purely focused around the athletes themselves, training collectively, but representing their clubs.
Well, Brendan, Joe Kelly here from Bro Rangers Club.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
Not too bad. No,
you would have coached my nephew there in the past, Matthew.
Yeah, and Kate as well. Yeah.
Kate, yeah.
No, David Zaneef now and Richard Conley, they've been speaking about this for the past couple of weeks, and we had a meeting, and that's why I joined tonight. We're hoping to get something up in our county as well, and cover all events hopefully. But that's where I come on here tonight, just to find out more information, just see where to lead us. But no, it's a great idea, so we're hoping to go with it.
Well, Joe, to be honest, it would be fantastic because, Bro Rangers would be, the experience of throws within that club could benefit a lot of other clubs within the Kilkenny region, and it would be fantastic even to start off with club, group club training and looking at, it will take time to set up the funding, because the funding is collected through the clubs. If a club, it's up to each club how they factor in the €6 into their registration fees. And it's for every registered member. So officers of clubs are registered members. The county board will bill if there's 130 in a club, or if there's 60 in a club or 40 in a club, they'll be all billed that number by €6 at the end of, for 2025 now, it'll be the end of the 31st of December 2024 registration, and we will bill each club are willing, more than willing to pay it. We've never ever had an issue in paying it, and if there was we say a club with a large number, we can let them. It can be paid in 3 installments. It's not we can't do it because we haven't got the money, but the funds will be depleted very, very quickly if you don't look at setting up some funding initially. And I know Athletics Ireland have an increase coming for 2025 as well, which is $6.50 per registered member. So, it's how clubs, if you wanted to put €6 on of a county board levy on as well, each club would have to know how they factored that in,
Yeah. And do you think, from your experience, can it be done without funding? Can it be done without actually paying money, do you think?
Well, you see, not in Kerry, because we have to hire tracks. We have to hire facilities. If a club that has their own training track was prepared to say, well, okay, you have the use of ours, it would save us €120 a session. But looking at the geography of where coaches are coming from, to maintain the level of coaches that's required, we felt it was appropriate, and it's been €50 a long time for time and travel. Like a squad session for me is 4 hours. From the time I leave home, go to the track in Castleisland, 2-hour training, and coming back, and not quite 4 hours, maybe 3.75 hours. And that same time frame is for quite a number of the athletes as well, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
And that's where it doesn't feel like that, because they're mixing with others. They're mixing with like-minded athletes in the same discipline. Like if you have 6 juveniles doing the discus or doing the shot put or doing the high jump, they're chatting and mixing during the period of time after the warm-up. We might get them all to warm up together with 2 coaches. That'd be 20-25 minutes. Then they break up into their respective disciplines and go wherever they're going. And if you have 6 high jumpers, they're all happy to chat. And it doesn't feel the distance. I might have sometimes have some of the athletes with me, and it doesn't feel a journey home, because might be tic-tacking on the phone to who they were talking to at the track or whatever,
Yeah. No, that's good. Cheers for that, Brendan.
You're welcome, Joe. Thanks. Any other questions, anybody? No, if anyone I mentioned it, I'm up at the AAI EGM on Saturday. If anyone is on the Zoom is up there, if they have anything, they're more than welcome to. So find me out, and if they have something in mind, I'll try and sort it out for them,
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brendan.
Welcome, Grace. Thank you.
No, it's been great to have you, and just getting those insights into how it's gone for you over the last couple of years and how you've overcome those challenges is, that's gold dust for a lot of the people here. So yeah, we really appreciate your time here tonight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Unless there's any other questions, I don't want to keep everyone all night, but I do have this recorded. I'll pop that on to everyone tomorrow, and then just with that document as well, I will share that tomorrow. So it's it kind of covers a lot of the points that we might have hit on tonight, but again, it's just something that you can kind of maybe look back on